Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's the commish back here with our first draft preview of the year, and I'm really excited about this new owner that came halfway through the year last year, in it to lose it. And we'll get into her story here in a moment. Referral from Dan in tier two. So I'm just going to share my screen here and we're just going to get right into it. Remember, as we move up the tiers, your um, preview obviously gets a little bit more extensive. When you're in tier three, it's going to be fairly basic. Okay. So just so everybody understands, again, you get up to tier one, it's a much more in-depth preview. So here we go, in it to lose it. Let's just get started. So first off, we start with the keepers, right? So triple headed here at the running back. You got Ashton Jeanty heading into year two. A little bit of competition with Mike Washington there now, so we'll have to see how that affects things. Travis Etienne also in a bit of a timeshare as well. If you throw in the fact that Alvin Kamara is still there, a fan favorite. Trust me, I was in New Orleans a couple of years ago watching a game live, and they sure love AK there. You got Michelle Tootin as well, Jacksonville in there. Another guy that's in a bit of a timeshare. Chris Rodriguez has a relationship with Liam Cohen. So that'll be interesting to see how many snaps Tootin actually gets. But I still think it's, running backs are a premium in this league. And most running backs now, if you think about it, are in a timeshare. So I don't really fault you there. Mike Evans, you're going with the veteran there for San Francisco. We'll have to see how he pans out in San Fran. You got to think he's going to get a lot of targets. It's the hamstrings, though, for him that always seem to go. Harold Fannin, I'm a huge fan of, obviously being a Browns fan, and I think he could literally still be the number one wide receiving option there. And then you're going with another vet at IDP, TJ Watt. Looking at your team here, other options for potential keepers could be Jaden Reed, obviously. George Pickens is another option that you could have looked at as well and still can look at, of course. Max Crosby, I mean, he's still there. Zach Bond at IDP, as well as Cam Curl. And then you also have Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice. So lots of options there, a keeper for you, but obviously you're going with the running back premium. Your 2025 recap, well, you finished 11th place in Tier 3. There's 12 teams, so second to last. Of course, you did join mid-year last year, so can't really fault you too much for that. You're a great active owner so far. And the other thing I've noticed is, you've been really easy to work with as well in LOC Dynasty 2. You're now a member of LOC Dynasty 2. Remember, both those leagues will be taken into consideration if you ever did bad enough for the Hugh Jackson Award. 2026 outlook, let's have a look. Well, your draft picks are all original picks. You pick fifth in the first round. So definitely, nothing to really be too concerned of from a draft perspective. Of course, it is snake draft in the tiered format. Of course, you're going triple-headed monster at running back, which we've already touched on. And then the other thing that I thought it was interesting is just the keepers on new teams, right? So ETN on a new team, Mike Evans on a new team. So we'll have to see how they do perform on those new teams. Your likely first pick, I think it's going to be wide receiver because you're keeping the three running backs. When I look at what your projected pick would be, if you go into the draft room, there's a bunch of guys that are still available because there's two teams here in tier three that didn't follow instructions. It's kind of interesting when teams don't follow instructions. You have to wonder if they're actually going to be around or be active. And if they're not, they will get the boot. Okay. So just so you're aware of that. So I took those guys out of what I think their projected keepers would be. And according to Sleeper, the fifth best player available will be a guy that was on your team last year, Rashee Rice. So you don't technically need to keep Rashee Rice if you don't want to, because according to Sleeper, he's going to be there at fifth overall. So that is your keeper or your preview for the year. Really lucky, I feel, the LSC to have you, and you're a great active owner. Really looking forward to seeing what you can do this year in both the leagues.